Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today I'm going to show you how to change an engine oil on this 2014 Nissan Armada. It's going to be a quick one, so let's get into it. So first, what we're going to do here, we're going to make sure that the engine runs for approximately 5 minutes. It depends on how cold it is. On a very cold winter day, I usually let it run like about 10 minutes. And the purpose for that is to allow the engine oil to drain freely. And then if there's any sludge in the engine, it runs out of it. That's the first thing. The second thing you will do is turn the engine off and then make sure that your parking brakes is set, because you're going to jack your vehicle up. And then after you set your parking brakes, you make sure that you put a block behind your rear wheels, like this guy right here. Put it behind it, just in case the emergency brakes fail, at least it doesn't roll back. And the next thing you do here is open the hood, which is the lever underneath here. Open the hood right here. Open the hood and make sure the car is turned off. And then you're going to need a drain pan. This is the drain pan here. You can get it from AutoZone. It's a 10-gallon drain pan, so it's sufficient enough to drain the engine oil and filter. And then you're going to open your hood. Now the hood has a lever right here, just right here. Slide it back and open the hood and keeps it open. The next step we're going to do here is, after jack the vehicle up, you go underneath here, and I'm going to show you where the drain plug is. Okay, and this is your drain pan right here, and then here is your drain plug. So we're going to loosen our drain plug and let the engine oil drain. And the tools you're going to need for that is a 14mm socket and a breaker bar. So the first thing you do when you get to the oil drain pan is to set your drain pan underneath your oil pan right there. And then you use your breaker bar, the oil drain plug here. Okay. And then you just loosen it with your fingers and allow the oil to drain out of the oil pan. It's going to pour out as soon as I remove this drain plug. And there is the engine oil is draining freely, and it's just because the engine oil is warm. That gives you a nice, very high flow out of the engine. You can see this engine oil is time for changing. And after this engine oil drained, you can tell when it's completed is when you stop seeing a flow of engine oil and there's no more drainage. That's when you can tell the engine oil is completely drained from the oil pan. And then next, we install our drain plugs, and then we move on to your oil filter, which is this guy right here, your oil filter. Now your oil filter should just tight enough where you should be able to use your hand and unloosen it. You should not use any tools to tighten your oil filter. Then you will have problems removing it when it's time for your oil change. So that's going to be the next step after my engine oil is drained. So let's get back to our oil drainage. You can see where the engine oil has been drained. The high flow is reducing down to little drips there. So, and just because the engine has been reach to a normal operating temperature, that gives you a very nice engine oil flows. Okay, that's drain enough for me. Now I can reinstall my drain plug back in the engine oil pan. Make sure that you finger start it first, and then you go ahead and use the breaker bar here and tighten it. Okay, that's good there. And then once you torque your drain plug, you go ahead and use a piece of rag and just dry it around the surface. Make sure that there is no residual oil leaks. Now the oil is completely drained. I reinstalled the oil drain plug. I torqued it and I cleaned residual oil around the plug, because once we service the engine oil, we're going to start the engine and check around this area, make sure there is no oil leaks. So that's why it's a good practice to clean around this area here. Now the next step we're going to do is remove your oil filter. Now this is the oil filter right here. So your oil filter usually is tight enough where you can use your hand and loosen it. It's supposed to be turned during tightening, and as soon as you started feeling resistance, you do a turn and a quarter turn for tightening. So you can see I can use my hand and unloosen it. So the oil filter, you're going to have residual oil comes out of it right here. So make sure your oil pan is set in place to catch the oil that runs out of the filter. Now I can actually unloosen that air filter. Once removing your oil filter, it's a good practice to clean around the area where the new oil filter and seal is going to be seated around this area here. So make sure you clean around this area here. Make sure there's no dirt or anything that could prevent the new oil filter to be seated properly. And then you clean around the area here, any residual oil, because once we start the engine up, we're going to be checking for oil leaks. So it's a good practice to clean around the surrounding area. So now we can now install our new oil filter. Okay, and now we're getting ready to install our new filter. Here is a new oil filter here from AutoZone, and new oil filter. The best way before you install your oil filter is to get some of the new oil from the container here and just dip a little oil, put a little oil around the O-ring, and the purpose for it is to get a better seal when you install a new oil filter, and also it prevents the seal from drying out because it rests against the engine surface and the engine gets hot over the period of time during operation. So the oil actually prevents the seal from drying out over the period of time. So it's a good way to it's a good practice to lubricate it before you install the new oil filter. So now, see, nice start turning very freely. See, now we reached to that resistant part. So we turn it. Now we can move our oil pan out of the way. Now we can hand tighten this oil filter, turn and a quarter of a turn. That should be good enough for your final installation on your oil filter. The next step you're going to do is clean around the surface area. Make sure there's no residual oil hanging around here. Like I said, the purpose for that is to make sure that there's no leakage when you service the engine and start the engines up. You should not have oil leaks in this area. So now we install the drain plugs on the oil pan, torque it, which is the oil pan here, that's the drain plug there. The new filter is here installed and clean all the residual oil around from the surfaces. So now we can actually remove the oil pan. At this point, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to let the vehicle down because I need the vehicle to be on a level surface to service the oil. Okay, now the engine oil has been drained. The new oil filter had replaced, new oil filter installed. At this moment, we need to service the engine with new engine oil. Place the filler funnel here in this area here where you service the engine oil. This is where you service it, and this is where you check this yellow handle here. This is where you check the quantity once you service the engine with new engine oil. Pour the new oil. That's 5 quarts there. That's 5 quarts just serviced, and we have 2 more quarts. That's another quart here, total it to 6 quarts. And like I said, the owner's manual recommends 6.9 quarts of engine oil to fully service this engine. That included full oil and filters. So that's 6.9. I am just going to pour just about 3/4 of this quantity here. Yes, about quarter left in here. And then the next thing I'm going to be doing here is check the quantity. So here is the dipstick here. This is where you use to check the quantity. So I would take it out, clean it off, check to make sure that there is no dirt on there, because I'm looking for, okay, see we have low here and we have high here, and this is where we need it, right at this top hole right here. Here is a low and here's a high. If you ever check your engine oil at any given time, whether it's cold or it's hot, and your engine lever is here, you can tell you're losing engine oil somewhere, whether there's a leakage somewhere or the engine is burning your oil. So that's the better way to check your engine oil. Now I am going to reinstall this dipstick into this hole right here. And I should have just a little bit above the high mark right here. And the purpose for that is the portion of the oil will fill your filters up. So once your filter is serviced, the oil level is going to drop exactly down to the upper hold. So now we know the engine is serviced. We're going to start the vehicle up. First, we remove your funnel here and install that filler cap. Now I install my filler cap. Make sure that my dipstick is in place. My filler cap is hand tight. Now I can now start my engine up and check for oil leaks down at your drain plug and at your oil filter. So here I go, start my vehicles up. Okay, now I got the engine running. Make sure that my oil light disappears while the engine is running. Now I turn my vehicle off. Now I can check my oil levels. First thing you do is remove your dipstick, clean it off, and reinstall it. And this time now you check for your oil levels. See, the oil levels is right up that hole, right there. So we know that the oil level is perfect where it should be. I reinstalled my dipstick. The next step I'm going to be doing is check my drain plug and my oil filter to make sure that there is no oil leakage. This is your oil filter. I can look around this area here and notice it's dry, which is good, no leakage. And the next place I will be checking is the oil drain plug, which is this plug right here. It's just as dry like it should. So now I know the drain plug and the oil filter is good. Thank you again for supporting my channel, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.